All right, if we're being asked to factor completely, the important statement with the completely part is that we're not allowed just to factor. The absolute easiest way to factor any kind of polynomial is to pull out the GCF. In this case, what we're looking for is a number, the greatest common factor of these numbers, and that is 9. And then the most number of x's, the variable that I could factor out, I'm limited by this x to the 5th, so I can factor out an x to the 5th. And as we know, when we factor out the greatest common factor, what we're doing is then the resulting factor here will be dividing each of these terms by the 9x to the 5th, giving us 9x to the 5th times a polynomial that would result in this. All right, so when I factor out a 9x to the 5th out of this, I'm left with an 8, and I got an x squared left. And the 9x to the 5th being factored out of this will give me a 14x. And then last but not least, I have no x's left in this last term, but 27 divided by 9 is 3. All right, so there we've factored. To factor completely, though, what we need to do now is to see if the polynomial, or quadratic in this case, left in these parentheses can also be factored. And in fact, this can be. I'll show that here on the side. I'll be using the AC method to factor this. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to be 24, the A and the C here, but add to be 14. Those two numbers are 12 and 2. So I will split this middle term up. I'll write this as a 2x plus a 12x plus 3. Then I'm going to do factor by grouping. The greatest common factor out of these two is a 2x. I get a 4x plus 1. Over here, I can factor out a 3, getting a 4x plus 1. Everything looks great. I have 4x plus 1 times 2x plus 3 is the factored form of this inside the parentheses. And so the last step, all I need to do is rewrite this 8x squared plus 14x plus 3 in this factored form, and then I have factored completely. Last little recap on this problem. Always when you're looking to factor, the first thing that you should be thinking about is factoring out the greatest common factor of any polynomial. If nothing else, it makes your life a heck of a lot easier. After that, though, if you're expected to factor completely, and moving forward, honestly, you're going to always want to factor completely. Look at the remaining stuff inside the parentheses after you factor out the greatest common factor and ask, do I have a method for factoring this? In this case, I use the AC method. The guess and check would have been just fine to factor 8x squared plus 14x plus 3.